Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat, the daily cast for all things gaming. So, the big news now is the release of the new 5e Ravenloft book. Look at that. I haven't even had anything to drink today. I can barely talk. And it's not often that I do this because you're going to see if you're looking at the share screen. I have a post here from N World in their forums from an Aaron L. And I found this very interesting, and I want to touch on what he says. But I will never be able to wrap my head around Dragonborn, or especially Thieflings, walking around free in the land of the mists. The Ravenloft, has always been 99% human, frightened and xenophobic, and even elves and dwarves were considered frightening alien things. Blatant dragon people and devil people showing up in a place like Barovia would be immediately hunted down with torches and pitchforks and burnt at the stake. And before anyone says the xenophobia was eliminated because xenophobia is bad, and we are more enlightened about such things today, the xenophobia was always presented as being bad. This is a horror setting. Vampires and werewolves are also bad. Xenophobia is a product of fear, which is heightened in a land of the mists. And frightened, clannish, xenophobic people are a long established element of many types of horror. When people are frightened, they tend to clan up and stigmatize outsiders. It's unpleasant, but it is a truth about humanity, and it will be especially prevalent among all the Ravenloft P zombies. Horror is about confronting awful things and the way fear affects people. And if you try to whitewash out all the underlying social problems that arise as symptoms of the fear, only to concentrate on the literal monsters, then you eliminate most of the horror, and instead you end up with a facile cartoon version of horror. So, I found that very interesting because here's my issues. I always felt Ravenloft read so much better than I could ever run it. And why is that? Because my adventuring party was almost, I think, everybody in my group when I was potentially running Ravenloft. I think we had one human, everybody else was demi-human. And yes, as written, Ravenloft natives are xenophobic, but they're not just xenophobic of elves and dwarves. That stranger with that strange accent, they know everybody, and we don't know you. Therefore, you're strange. You're different. That is where a lot of this horror comes from in something like Ravenloft. And to take that out of the setting is to do the setting a disservice. Again, I haven't purchased a Ravenloft product since the 2E days. I ran a few of the adventures. I would bring my party in for a session or two as they went through the mists and then dropped them out. I never ran a campaign with Ravenloft natives. That would have been interesting. But really, when you think about it, Ravenloft natives, you'd have a problem running with clerics. You wouldn't have any paladins, probably wouldn't have any rangers. And the natives of Ravenloft are generally, for the most part, are beat down peoples, right? So where else would you see xenophobia? Well, poor neighborhoods, whether we are talking uh, ghettos or Appalachia, and I'm not saying this to, stigmatize or label anybody, but when an outsider comes to a neighborhood that everybody knows each other, and this stranger suddenly appears, well, why are you there? Well, you're there either because you're there to cause trouble, right? You're there to fix something, or you're there to I don't know, be prey, right? To think about in Ravenloft, if you come into a town unannounced and you're a party of adventurers, there's no party of adventurers traipsing through Ravenloft. So yes, and at least elves, dwarves, maybe they occasionally come through and get caught up in the mist. But Dragonborn, Thieflings, they do look reptilian, demonic. And you could see the reaction that would be expected. So I personally think, now this is just me, that if you're going to run a setting like Ravenloft, Xenophobia is part of it. If you're going to run a setting like Midnight, all right, the classic third edition, third party setting Midnight, which I understand it's coming back. Again, never read it, but man, I mean, that's right, never ran it. I read it. And the reading it was very inspirational, but again, part of the issue is in these beat down societies, xenophobia comes along with it. And for an adventuring party to travel from one location to the other, you're not going to be accepted by the natives. It isn't like an open world, pretty much like the world we live in today. Although there are societies where if you went and, hey, you know, if I went to North Korea, I am sure I would be treated with a lot of xenophobia. Who's this, you know, white American coming to our closed off society? Ravenloft is a closed off society. So I think that taking away the xenophobia is, again, doing a disservice to it. Now, according to what I've read on this thread, which was started with all these reviews on the usual website, overwhelmingly speaking highly of the Ravenloft release, but then somebody else, great comment, have any of these websites ever spoken poorly of an official Witches of the Coast 5e release? Probably not, because they all get it for free, right? They're all getting these are review copies. We're sending this out to the media because we want positive coverage. And actually be a whole other episode of Tavern Chat that I could do one day is talk about that, because there is this huge issue between getting something as a comped copy and then doing an effective review, which is why I don't really do much in the way of reviews. Because I remember doing a review early in the days of the blog, and it wasn't overwhelmingly negative, but it wasn't overwhelmingly positive. And it was a comped copy. And I actually got emailed by the publisher very angrily, like how I got a copy of this, because apparently I used their review copy, and how dare a reviewer actually give a negative review. And the rules at RPG Now /DriveThru, last I checked, apparently I'm no longer a reviewer, so can't check now, was pretty much if you were going to give a negative review being 1 or 2 stars for a product that you had a review copy of, they would rather you did not give a review at all. Not a surprise, right? You know, negative reviews don't sell anything, but just an eye-opener. So, my question to you all, xenophobia, is it something that should be in horror or dark RPGs and settings? I mean, I could see it, like xenophobia, Call of Cthulhu. You know, you're up in the 1920s in some small New England town, and you come in with your New York accent or your Boston, and you start throwing your weight around, you're going to be treated differently than a local would be, right? That's part of xenophobia. So just some random thoughts. Folks, on the usual note, we're still in the midst of the world of COVID. So I'm going to ask you to take precautions to keep yourself, your family, your friends, your loved ones healthy and safe. I am immunized. That was my own personal choice. I'm not saying that you need to follow that choice. you know your health risks. For those that follow the comings and goings at North Texas RPG Con, Doug Rea has been fighting cancer for years. He's stage 4, and he'll be going in for a procedure tomorrow. Be some surgery. I don't think I'm blowing any confidence by mentioning this. We'll probably talk about it again, Mike and I, Wednesday when we do Talk and Crit at 8 p.m. But I would like to focus the power of good thoughts, kind thoughts, positive thoughts, and prayer for those that do pray for this procedure to go well for Doug, and may it put him in a better space than what he was prior to this. Because if you understand cancer, stage 4 is pretty much where they don't talk about putting this in permanent remission or cure, but it's pretty much putting you in a position where it's like, well, your life expectancy, low end and high end, and Doug's already gone beyond the high end, so he's a tough bastard. So if you guys can spare a few prayers and kind thoughts for Doug, I'd personally appreciate it. Okay, he's a stubborn bastard. He's our bastard, folks. Be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, and God willing, I'll be back again tomorrow. All right, folks.